Guys, there's some things that we just don't talk about. Some things guys can talk about, you might just get laughed at, or they might just be like, oh, this guy's serious. Yeah. And so I would like to talk about one of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately. I like to talk about belts. Seems like we never take enough time to appreciate belts. I'm not talking about, giving them enough rights or worshiping them. I'm just talking about appreciating them. I'm talking about, going out there and not just buying a belt, but, finding the right belt,
Yeah.
So, I know some of you are like, hey, belts are a dime a dozen, and they just go out and get a belt. They're all over the place, belts. Yeah, so, and I'm pretty sure some of you out there, you're sitting out there like, I've got a belt. I got my belt right here. It's old, stretched out, the holes are a little loose more of the time. I'm waiting for my belt just to snap so I can grab my pants and find a new one. So, and some of you guys might say some really mean things about belts, like, the only part of that heifer I need is the part that wraps around my hips. Some of you might be like, who is this guy up here talking about? What does he know about belts? What's the longest time that he's ever held onto a belt? That's a really good question, but I had a little bit of time to learn about belts. I've been sitting here thinking about belts. And before I go on with belts, I want to get some things out of the way, because I'm pretty sure there's some of you out there like, yeah, I remember this one belt. Or, some of you might say, hey, I've got my belt, it's just a worthless piece of crap. So, over the years, I found out, that there are, two things you go for. You got two of them, you got belts. Sleek, sexy, they're very nice. And then you've got suspenders. Suspenders, I never liked suspenders. Suspenders, not my thing. So as I grew older, and I started realizing that when I need a belt, I was looking down on my bridges, and I was like, I need a belt. And then there were suspenders, and suspenders were like two little hands grabbing towards my crotch while something else is reaching towards my back. I'm like, hell no, get that away from me! So, I was like belts. Belts are nice belts. They wrap around the hip. Yeah. So, so I was off for a belt, but not any old belt. I thought I'd hold back and find the right one, but, I had to be realistic. I would take any old belt. I could take whatever I can get. Just one that I could, find and call my own, but others would talk about belts, and a lot of times they talk about the holes, because belts have like 7 holes, and we're that, and they're all talking about, oh, I want to use every one of them holes, and I'm like, how in the world are you going to use every single one of those holes, and I'm like, oh, well, because most guys, they only use like, maybe 2 holes, you got that, you got some really conservative guys out there who are like, I've been using the same hole my whole life. But, and for the rest of us,
it's my shit!
When we get to past that first hole, we're like, hey, let's slip into that second one, right? But then every once in a while, you get there, and after a while, you're like, you know what? I've been using the same 2 holes the whole time. They're starting to get a little bit loose, so I'm not digging it no more, so I'm going to go for that 3rd hole. You're at work, and you hear those guys talking about, hey, I used the 3rd hole. You're like, oh, yeah, I think I'm going to go home. I'm going to try that 3rd hole. Yeah, but that's not always a good idea, because, you're like, at first you're like, oh, God, it's hard on the hips. It's so tight. But then you're like, oh, God, now I have to look down that hole, and I've completely blown it out. I can't ever look at that hole again. Yeah, I made this one a piece of shit. Anyways, so, you go on and you get past that point, of trying to sit there and using your imagination on trying to use all the holes. So, you're just like, oh, well, I'm sure I'll just be fine with the 2. I think that's why I'm going to go with that one. But I'm not judging you if you did. But what I am saying is, no matter what you're into, I don't care what you're into, whether you're a belt or you're a suspenders kind of person, or maybe you're in some sort of a hybrid between the belt and the suspenders. I don't know. That you should respect that. You shouldn't keep that in your closet. Whatever this is holding on to, you should keep it in a closet because it's really hard to hold on to a person. No matter what they do, so you should respect them. You should really carry it around, go everywhere with your belt. Because I like my belt, and I would never hide my belt. I wouldn't be ashamed or embarrassed to show my belt to my friends. I wouldn't sit there and be like, oh well, my belt's really ugly. I don't want to show it off. That's all right, but like I said, appreciate it. Appreciate the belt because it's not easy holding on to a person no matter what they do. And last thing you want to do is you never want to leave them on the floor all curled up, because then you just sort of feel like a jerk. You left them on the floor all curled up. It's really mean. You have to really care about the belt. And so, like I said, be proud. Go out there, and if you do go everywhere with your belt, don't be lazy about it. Go out there and really try to form some good new memories. But I guess part of what I'd also try to say about belts while I'm talking about belts, because I've been thinking about belts, is have you ever noticed how a good belt makes you feel good about yourself? You stand a little bit straighter when you've got a good belt. Feel a little bit of pride. And when you go out and you have a good belt.
You have 1 minute.
I have 1 minute. Oh, no, 1 minute. All right. Well, one of the things that when I knew that I had a good belt is when I went out and about, I wouldn't find myself dropping my pants so much. I'd really try to keep my pants up till I got home, right? But anyways, I guess I got 1 minute left. 1 minute left, and I'm still talking about belts. So I'm gonna wrap this up before my knees start to buckle. All right. Well, that's all I've got about belts. I could probably go on about belts, but not right now. So I'll talk to you later. Huh?